What will they do? If somebody gets 15 million votes and William gets about 5 million votes, how will they be? You know, to steal, there must be a certain marginal error, like the 200,000 between Raila and William Ruto in the last election, or 2007, 150,000 votes between Kibaki and Raila, and so forth. But you cannot steal when it's a margin of more than 3 million votes. How will you steal that? Now he wants to be a cast master by saying the boys who have done this will be ahead of him in terms of death. If any one of them wants to die, Ruto, will be visited by the curse that he has meted on that particular young boy or girl. This is a guy, even if he goes second term, he may want to come back as prime minister after 2032. He's a man who loves power. He's a man who loves attention. He's a man who has a very thin skin. When you criticize him, it gets to his nerves.
You seem to be putting him in the same category like the one you put Mwenja a few months ago.
Yeah, they are. They're in the same. In fact, even better Sudi, because Sudi admits that he's illiterate and he professes illiteracy. But somebody who says he has a law degree, he's an engineer one afternoon, he's all this, he's a businessman, he has never lost elections, and we know he has been having a jacket career. He has lost so many elections.
What a pleasure, what a privilege to have you on Richard Mwenja Exclusive, our first edition for the year of our Lord 2025. I'm Richard Mwenja. I'm so glad that you're here to keep us company as we dissect on matters of national interest. And as usual, your favorite think tank is here with us, a thought leader, opinion shaper in this country. He has served Kenya in many capacities, the prime of it being Minister for Agriculture at some point and also serving in our diplomatic missions here and there. He is the son of Cherangani. Honorable Kipruto Arap Kirwa, how are you doing today?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, sir.
Yeah, it's also my pleasure to meet you for the first time this year.
And I had to look colorful for that particular reason.
Yes.
Don't you see that?
No. Yeah, I can see. The color matching is very interesting. Yeah, I think tell Kwame to do something for us.
I will.
Yeah.
I surely will. How have you been, though? Christmas in Cherangani. How are the people of Cherangani doing?
They are doing very well. They have just finished their harvest. Some are shelling, some are preparing to go back to land preparation, culminating in planting in March 20th. Yeah, usually, remember the rain comes to Trans Nzoia around the equinox, about March 20th, 22nd. That's when our planting begins, the onset of the rains. Yeah.
Very well. I'm so glad that you've granted us the pleasure of your company once again this year to do what we consider the Lord's work and by and large civic education, sir. Yeah. And we are at a season as a country whereby derogatives, expletives are rent in the air. It's a season of people dishing out threats here and there just so to stamp the authority. I'm talking about our political class. And also the building rage among Kenyans. They feel things are not right in this country and that the nation could be going down. Or at the very least, we could be letting the nations go to the dogs and cats. But sir, I want you to unpack this conversation with me so that we make sense of what's happening in this country. And let's begin with the diction among our political class. Let's begin from remarks by Captorate Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi with regards to 2027 elections. Look, an elected leader goes to a public rally and say, come whatever may, the president will get a second term. If anything, we shall manipulate the 2027 votes in his favor, just so to grant him another term in office. If you look at this country, we've had a history whereby at some point we've seen voter apathy kicking in. And now Oscar Sudi says they'll manipulate the results in favor of President Ruto. How do you weigh such remarks from an elected leader, and what does that mean to the electorate?
Well, Richard, elections don't confer intelligence to individuals. Even stupid people get elected just because they happen to be nice fellows at a certain period of time or useful to the powers that be. So I do not credit a lot to Oscar Sudi because apart from the fact that most of the words that he uses, unless in Kiswahili or Kalenjin, they are plagiarized because he has no capacity to write 2 sentences in English and complete them. That's why he was not even able to be sworn in effectively. And some of the words that he used, I don't know why he never got sworn in Kiswahili, because he could not read the sentences up to the end. And I think he had committed to memory only for it to backfire because of the excitement of the moment.
You seem to be among the lot that wants to pass English to threaten and intimidate Oscar Sudi.
No, it's not English. It is actually clear thinking and logical way. My mother never knew any word in English except yes or no. But she was more logical than many of the leaders I see today. She was able to interrogate some issues that were beyond her. I've told you before, like even the advent of liberalization, she was able to see in 1972. And neoliberalization took place around 1991. Because what she used to tell us is that nothing is permanent. That even when sugar was introduced to this country, it was introduced for free until people got used to it. That is when now a certain price was ascribed to it. And that is how the market of sugar gained momentum in Kenya. So she was telling us, even all these issues of commissions because you are delivering somebody's maize, that at the end of it will come to the finish. And therefore, as you make hay, make sure that when the sun is shining, you make hay. So, but my worry fundamentally is not even Sudi, and it's not even these members of parliament who are making statements talking about top-up of votes. Should the votes not be enough, that we shall do a top-up. Even at the worst of days, where Kenyans thought President Moi was arrogant, was a dictator, he was more modest than these fellows. He was more modest in the sense that he used to go for votes. And whatever he did, he was not able to say either directly or through agents that we are going to manipulate the votes. This therefore tells us that the leadership in totality of Kenya Kwanza is lacking in terms of integrity, is lacking in terms of patience, and also respect for the public opinion. What will they do if somebody gets 15 million votes and William gets about 5 million votes? How will they be? You know, to steal, there must be a certain marginal error, like the 200,000 between Raila and William Ruto in the last election, or 2007, 150,000 votes between Kibaki and Raila, and so forth. But you cannot steal when it's a margin of more than 3 million votes. How will you steal that? You want to do what was done in Liberia by the 17th president, who, despite the fact that they had only 15,000 votes, he got 245,000 votes. It was the most
spectacular failure, that one.
Yeah, fraudulent election ever done. And it is in Guinness Book of Records. Do they want to do the same for Kenya? Yeah. So some of these issues, they worry me because I'm not worried about Sudi. I'm worried about the name of the president. He is bringing himself into disrepute by allowing somebody to make some of those statements. The way I look at the situation today is that, yes, we have degenerated in terms of name calling. We have degenerated in terms of insults, abuses. But there is still a lot of hope because ordinary Kenyans are intelligent. We may misunderstand them, but they are very intelligent. They know who fills the bill for the next election.
Waziri, you seem to believe that the president's hand is in the space because you want to say his friends cannot go out there talking as they are doing without his blessings. But the president seems to be playing an impartial card, dismissing anyone calling for him to get a second term or even another term in office, saying there are those who never even believed he'll get a single term in office. Do you think the president is neutral on this matter about term limits and need for him to extend to a second term?
In fact, I get worried all the time when I look at William Ruto on the face. This is a guy, even if he goes second term, he may want to come back as prime minister after 2032. He's a man who loves power. He's a man who loves attention. He's a man who has a very thin skin when you criticize him, it gets to his nerves.
We call it the home of engineers. We train you how to make engineering drawings. We have a brilliant drawing and detailing program that will not only train you how to draw and detail, but you'll also learn how to draw and detail using the software.
AutoCAD. By the time that you're going to university, you'll be able to do AutoCAD by yourself. Imagine a fifth year asking you to just do that project for them.
Once you have these tools, you will not only be industry ready, but you will be ahead of your peers in the job market, and it will give you a brilliant competitive edge while looking for a job.
I would like to advise the students who are done with maybe high school, and also if you've graduated from university colleges and you've done a course related to civil engineering, building, architect, so that you can join here because it has a lot of practical works.
Welcome to Site.
That's why he has now acquired another name. Because you see, at the level of the president, and I know he's a true Kalenjin, because I know his parents, the late father and the mother. But what he has done is against the basic tenets of a Kalenjin leader. A Kalenjin leader, you are given position for purposes of manning the situation in a way that you bring harmony. Even when you have a walking stick, you are told this walking stick is not meant to hurt anybody. If any people are to fight you, you don't use that walking stick to hit somebody.
It shouldn't be a weapon of choice?
It should not be a weapon of choice. You should not weaponize leadership. But the other day, I heard him saying the boys who are drawing him in a coffin will go ahead of him. You know, now he has acquired another position. In Kalenjin, there are those who are said they are blacksmiths, those who are leaders, which he seems to ascribe to. Now, when he acquires the position of meting out a curse, now his tongue has become bitter. And you cannot combine cursing and leading the people. So it is he himself who is destroying his future by now acquiring the level of a man who is brought in to curse. Such people, just to give you a bit of background,
Sure.
is that when there is a dispute about something which court laws, it could be a charge, it could be anything, they are brought in the morning. And they come and case after a certain period, they are allowed now to declare. And they will get with a stick, a dry stick, go between the people, almost half naked, throw that stick. By 3 o'clock, whoever stole the charger will be dead, or there will be a proof that this is the person who did it. And those are people we say they have a bitter tongue. Now, William Ruto is trying to acquire that, which is dangerous for him.
He could be snared by his own diction.
You know, it can destroy you. You cannot acquire two positions in society. You are either a curse master or a leader. Now he wants to be a curse master by saying the boys who have done this will be ahead of him in terms of death. If any one of them wants to die, Ruto, he will be visited by the curse that he has meted on that particular young boy or girl. That's something I want to advise him, because he's my younger brother.
Sure enough.
Yeah.
On the term limit argument, there are members of parliament, allies to the president, who believe that Kenya has set zero precedence of a one-term president, and that President Ruto can never be is no exception. How do you weigh such an argument from an elected leader saying Moi was there for 24 years, Kenyatta one was there for 15 years, Uhuru Kenyatta was there for 10 years, and so was Mwai Kibaki. Ruto can never be an exception. How do you weigh that?
Well, it's very clear, unless they don't read the Constitution clearly. It is a mandate that you are given for 5 years, and that mandate, if it is acceptable, people will renew it. So he needs to seek votes from the people. And you see, Africa today, I think Africans are getting a bit short-tempered. In Ghana, the president lost an election, so he did one term. In Botswana, the president lost an election, so he did one term. In Angola, The president lost an election. He did one term. And I may not remember other countries. So this one-term issue is not new to Kenya. I think Africans are getting either impatient or tired or short-tempered about the leaders of the day. And you cannot get another term using the same words that they are using today. William Ruto's issue, and he spoke the truth the other day by saying that he's going to compete against his programs, which is true. He's going to compete against his programs. He's going to compete against his promises. He's going to compete against his lies. He's going to compete against what he was calling the burden of incumbency that Raila lost in the last general election. He himself will be carrying that burden of incumbency. There's nobody else who can carry, whether it's Raila who has come in through the window, whether it's Uhuru who seems to be giving tacit approval to the appointments of one or two other guys from central Kenya. I think the burden of incumbency squarely lies on his shoulders. So that is the burden that he needs to explain to us before the next general election.
Otherwise, he runs the risk of being the architect of his own doom.
Yeah, he is going to be the architect of his demise, politically.
Before we move on swiftly to this conversation, allow me bring you to speed with one fashion designer. He's called Kwame of St. Osei Clothing. He's the man behind this colorful shirt, African print that I'm wearing today on the show. You can reach out to him via the number displayed at the bottom part of your screen. WhatsApp him on 0723 456 589. That is Kwame, the designer from St. Osei Clothing Line. You can find him at Astral Petrol Station on Lenana Road. You can also visit his shop at Mama Shanti Complex or at Quickmart, that is along Gitanga Road. Just make a call to him today. He'll deliver whatever African print you want for whichever occasion that is. And by being dressed by St. Osei Clothing Line, certainly you'll do more than just showing up. Give him a call today and you'll get your delivery within a record 72 hours. He does unisex clothing, so do reach out to him and he'll certainly give you value for your money.
Wonderful.
Waziri,
yes.
I want us to now shift gears a bit, but still on the subject about the diction from our political class and elected leaders. And let's cross over to Dadaab constituency. And their Member of Parliament, Farah Maalim, seems to be escalating his attack on the president's critics. At a public rally a few days ago, he used derogatory language on Kenyans who are out to oppose government, or rather expose the skeletons of our government of the day. And let's circle back to a few months during the onset of the Gen Z protest. He's the same gentleman who said, were he the president, he would have even killed at least 5,000 Gen Zs who went to the streets in what he believes was an attempt to dethrone the president of this country. For Farah Maalim, he's been a member of parliament for several terms. He's even ascended to the position of Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly at one point. And I want to understand, he's not only a senior citizen in this country, but someone whom many might have held in high regard. From your view, how do you weigh the sentiments and remarks by Farah Maalim?
The problem with Farah Maalim is bitter. And one source of bitterness, because I've heard from him, is bitter against a community called the Kikuyu. So because this government is not led by Kikuyu, he thinks it's a better government than any other government that can come in future. Just listen to him. He has told me that. See, I'm talking one-to-one. He's so bitter. I don't know. I don't know what the Kikuyus did to him. We came out of the studio one of the mornings, why are you so bitter? Oh, Uhuru killed 2,000 Muslims at the coast. Oh, this is what the Kikuyus have done. When you start invoking the name of a community, that is when you go low.
Is he a mockery to education?
I don't know which education. I'm told he went to a law class, but I don't think, I've not seen in the role of those who have gone to law school. So he's not advocate of the High Court. He could be a lawyer, and even if I went now for 3-4 years, I can also have law degree. But does it qualify me to be a lawyer at the level of people like Dansan Omari, Wakina Ndegwa Njiru, this other young man, Willis Otieno? No. To have a law degree is not a qualification that you're educated.
You seem to be putting him in the same category like the one you put Mwengi Mutuse a few months ago.
Yeah, they are. They're in the same. In fact, even better Sudi, because Sudi admits that he's illiterate and he professes illiteracy. But somebody who says he has a law degree, he's an engineer, one afternoon, he's all this, he's a businessman, he has never lost elections, and we know he has been having a jacket career. He has lost so many elections. Yeah. When he loses election, he says he was rigged.
For a leader of a marginalized community, would you say it's the most unfortunate thing to come out of one? The remarks by people like Farah
Manyora. We were giving him a lot of space. You know, Richard, I would want to deal with people. That's why I usually like dealing with the president, because he's the president. People like Farah Manyora, these are opportunists. Yeah, they are seeking attention from the president with the hope that you will be told, this position that has arisen, can you be the minister for 1, 2, 3? Then he resigns because he knows he may not win the next election. And let's wait, after 4 years, after 2 years, we'll know whether we'll win the next election.
However, Waziri, something bothers me. Why is the president not quick to summon his allies like Farah Manyora and say, this is the last time you should speak with such tone to the electorate? Yes, you are my ally, but you can never cross that line in that sense.
They are reading his lips. The president himself is somebody who is interested in division, divide and rule. I've told you before, Richard, that the president will always identify an enemy for him to be seen that he's fighting the enemy. In the process, you don't scrutinize his agenda. It started by 4-1, 41 communities against 1 in 2007. The next election, he was talking of referendum against the Hague. And in between, he was condemning Raila for losing 4,000 Kalenjin boys. This is information in the media. And when that was done, after the Hague, now in the next election, immediately after winning second term with Uhuru, he now talked about the hustler and the dynasty. The other day, they were using Rigathi as the main culprit for problems. Ford Foundation, Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, the Muganga, they were talking of Muganga, Vitendawili. Now he's now with Muganga, mzee wa Kitendawili. He has now gone back to dynasty Uhuru Kenyatta.
Mlevi.
Ama alikuwa anamuita Mlevi. So all these things, William Ruto wants to identify somebody so that his agenda is not interrogated. He has no agenda for Kenya.
He has zero agenda for Kenya.
He has zero agenda for Kenya. You cannot
be
changing names. Shiv Shah from NHIF. What was integral problem for NHIF? Why don't you look at the problem? You can keep the name. And you change the internal structures, the paradigm shift, and you improve the running and the governance issues within NHIF. All these is just to look like he's doing something new. Nothing new.
So on the tone of the government and also the vision bearers that we have as a country, are we being spearheaded and following the worst?
Well, this is the worst regime that has ever visited Kenya. In fact, when history is written, President William Ruto will acquire the worst position in the history of this country.
Does he have a chance for redemption in the balance of the time before 2027?
I don't know. It depends on him. The ball is in his court. If he has the listening capacity, which I know he lacks, because he believes that he knows everything, he calls himself a professional all round. He wants to say he knows governance issues, he knows diplomacy, he knows issues of science, he knows issues. And yet the other day he was saying he does not believe that university should be teaching history. And yet history is the foundation of human success and evolution. Even technology has a lot of history, from the weaving of silk worms in India, in China, up to the current technology of churning out certain materials, yarns and fabric. Yeah.
On the critics of the government of today who have been put to notice by mining CS Hassan Joho, they have been told, continue with your threats, but do so, continue with your criticism, but do so at your own peril. And Hassan Joho believes that they too, as government, can unleash their team, which can unmatch the team that is out here to critique the president's government. How do you read that statement from Hassan Joho saying you are bringing in fire, but we too can quell that fire if you dare us to get to that extreme?
I think what they need to do is to improve their communication, tell us the truth about what they are doing, reduce stealing of public property, and spend more time doing issues of governance. And don't explain anything to us. Do the things that you are supposed to do, and people will see it. That's what Kibaki used to tell us, that don't spend a lot of time telling people, this is what we want to do. Do it, and after you've done it, those even who are doubting, they will see you doing it, and they will believe your story. Yeah.
Put the action and your work will be seen.
And everybody will see it. Yeah, you don't need to be broadcasting. You don't need to be telling us what you want to do next year. Do it now. And you will see this is what you have done. Next year, whatever you will be doing, we will know that you are doing that next year. Yeah.
Sure enough.
Yep. So that's the way it is. Let them do the work they are supposed to do. We spend our time here. We are in the opposition. So we have to point out the mistakes they are making. Yeah.
Very well.
And they make plenty of mistakes. Even at times, I don't want to come to the studio. But then I realized I made more mistakes. I have to come here to shout for the public to know that these guys are up to no good.
In under a week, they can do a litany of mistakes.
A lot of them, including G2G, oil whatever, arrangement, that is now become gangster to gangster.
Fair enough, Waziri. If you look at our CS Interior, Kipchumba Murkomen, and how he has hit the ground running, how do you weigh? Has he hit the ground running on the right foot? Because more of what we are getting from him is sort of threats and intimidation strategies for the Gen Zs out here to use digital space to criticize the government of today and also to paint its skeletons out here. For Kipchumba Murkomen, as our CS Interior, what's your word for him? And can he thrive by invoking fear as CS for Interior?
You know, technology, once it is in our midst, it's up to you to choose what you want to do with technology. And therefore, they cannot prescribe to anybody how we need to use technology. Technology comes with so many good things, but there are also negative things generated by the same technology. So he cannot be a good teacher because he himself has been using the same space in the last couple of years to undermine the regime that they were part of, the one of Uhuru Kenyatta. So today, their test, the test of their medicine. This is medicine they concocted, and they are now testing it. And you know the test of medicine is in its efficacy. Is it effective? Is it delivering the results expected? And the answer is yes. The fact that they are crying about technology means they have heard our cries, that they are doing the wrong things, and technology they cannot hide. Yeah, I saw this morning as I was driving to this place, a cloud that looks like the image of the head of the president. And they said it is today, it's very cloudy, with fast-moving clouds, with almost a threat of abduction. And I thought that was very imaginative for the guy who concocted that kind of technology. Because some of us, we don't know even how to create the image of somebody in terms of the clouds. But now we enjoy. And at times you don't have to learn everything. You know, like I usually tell a driver, if you are a good driver, you don't have to know how to service the engine. So for me, I'm a good consumer of this new technology. Yeah, and I'm happy. So Kipchumba Murkomen, if he's not happy, there's nothing we'll do. You cannot take people to court under the current constitution unless there is credible evidence on where they have broken the law.
Misuse of cyberspace.
Yeah.
That is what they believe.
Well, but you have to prove. Is it misuse? I'm communicating this. Is it true that there have been abductions? If the answer is yes, then how do you say that I'm not doing the right thing? So,
what do you think, Waziri, was going to be the antidote of Kapseret Member of Parliament, Oscar Sudi, when it comes to flattening the president's critiques? Because he hypothetically spoke and said that were I the CS Interior, I would have brought this nonsense to a stop in under 3 days. What do you think would have been his weapon of choice to tame the president's critics?
I don't think even he has capacity to imagine could have been his weapon. For him, it's possible to abduct more and kill more.
That is what he meant, that he would do that in under 3 days and
Yeah,
silence all critics?
because does he know any law that he can use to rein in good or bad manners? You know, for him, some of these people, I suspect you like him because you see, why bring him? He's just looking for votes for the next election. You know, when you talk about that in Wasingishu, in Kapseret, of course, not all parts of Wasingishu, because there are sufficient number of people today who don't have a lot of time for William Ruto. In Wasingishu, today, his former constituency.
The prophet is no longer welcome at his homeland?
No, well, he's the president. Even if he came here, we'll stand and greet him. But after that, we'll be greeting the office, not the person. He has lost the taste that he used to have.
He has lost the taste
Yeah.
that he used to have.
Yeah.
Let us do with trying to silence the revolutionaries, the Gen Z constituent, and taming down those out here to oppose the government, and what allies to the president believe is reckless criticism. Gladys Boss-Cholei, elected leader in this country, believes that we are not seeing any abduction in this country. They are not organic abductions. They are artificial abductions being conducted by non-state actors to paint the government in a negative image. For Gladys Boss-Cholei, do you read iota of wisdom behind her claim?
Well, she is a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. But I've been a lawmaker for 20 years. And with sufficient knowledge of the language they call English. And the current constitution is written in very simple language. And the issue of sovereignty and the national territorial integrity of Kenya is so critical when it comes to the law. And if there is anybody doing abductions, whether people are abducting themselves, or there are people who are abducting others, either from within or from outside, like the ones who came from Uganda, the ones who came from Turkey, and the ones who took this young lady, Maria Sarungi, then what the state is telling us is that it has failed in its duty to protect me and my source of livelihood. Simply, that's the work of the state. And that's why we say we've given them the monopoly of violence. If there is a situation that needs a bit of violence to rein in good manners when people exceed the law, the state is given that opportunity. But they should also do it within the law. So for Cholei to come and tell us that, it is actually meant for village talk. And being a lawyer who has listened to the registrar of the High Court to say that either she's not well or she's not speaking the truth. And because I know she's well, then she's lying to us.
In the full glare of the public?
Yeah. Because, psychophancy hypnotizes people. So she may be going through certain hypnosis as a result of being a sycophant of President William Ruto. I remember in Kipkorgot AIC Church the other day, he was telling, when you tell me this, I will do it. When you tell me not to speak for long, I will not speak for long. When you told me the other day to remove Rigathi Gachagua, I removed him. Is that something that we are supposed to say in front of the president?
Illusions that come with power?
That is what she said. That's what she said. So I'm telling you, when people are going through sycophancy, they get some kind of hypnosis. When people are bitter, when people are greedy, when people are hateful, they diminish their capacity to think.
Education loses meaning in their brains?
Yeah, because you see, when you lose your capacity to think, whether you are educated or not educated, you lose the space, ordinary space that Kenyans see you as advocate of the High Court, having listened to the registrar of the High Court and occupying a position of Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly.
It's a disaster.
It is a disaster in the making.
Finally, Waziri, you've brought the point about sycophancy and how it blinds even those whom we've held in high regard, and they now start acting otherwise. And You've gone on record on this particular program, citing examples like Oscar Sudi, Kimani Ichung'wah. You've now talked about Gladys Bocholei as being signposts of sycophants, latter-day sycophants. And if we circle down memory lane, and I know you are there, and go to the time, back to the times of Gigi Kariuki, Charles Njonjo, whom probably illusions of power got to their head, and at some point they were really enjoying the benefits that come with being at the president's kitchen cabinet, riding in the presidential limousine, among other niceties that came their way. But in the fullness of time, we saw history barely reserving a footnote for them in the good pages of history. Is this the likely fate of the people I've mentioned to you?
You know, at least in Njonjo has his own political address. He was the first black attorney general of Kenya. He occupied certain space. He was responsible for certain milestones in the history of this country. Gigi Kariuki also was part of the Lancaster talks. Actually, in his PhD, it is basically dealing with issues of Lancaster conference. He was one of the youngest members of parliament from Laikipia. He served and he was in the office of the president. But notwithstanding that, people like Sholei, people like Sudi, people like Murkomen, they don't have an address of their own. I've said it before and I can say it again. In the absence of William Ruto, they will be struggling in the local marketplace to be identified as leaders. In the local marketplace, they will be struggling to be identified. Perhaps the little money they have made is what will make them look relevant in the marketplace by buying some drinks to some young guys to praise them that, oh, minister. Others, oh, speaker. Oh, mheshimiwa. Otherwise, they have no address of their own. In Kalenjin land, they have no address of their own. Minus William Ruto, what can Murkomen be?
Empty shells?
Nothing. Nothing. He will go back and try to struggle to survive in Keyo Marakwet. Remember, if it was not for the fact that UDA was a strong party, he had to fight for his own life to win the senatorial election. And Sholei was almost wiped out by a young girl called Chebichi. Sudi has been using plastic chairs to give to those colleges at Kapseret, but he does not have any credentials of his own. So when you bring some of these people before me, I don't think much of them.
Because they don't have an address of their own.
They have no address of their own. Wapi, Bio Box wapi, Kapsawar?
It reads Sugoi.
No, Sugoi ni kwa William. Huyu mwingine, I don't know where it is. I don't know.
It reads Sugoi because you say they don't have an address of their own.
Address
so
it. Oh yeah, I think private bag Sugoi. Oh yeah.
All right. Finally, Waziri, you're out here bringing these insights on board, and I'm a Gen Z, and I'm at a limbo because I fear for what lays ahead for us as a country. And now that we've mentioned people like Farah Maalim, Gladys Bocholei, these are senior citizens in this country, and I'm sitting back and wondering, would it be foolhardy for anyone, especially the Gen Z, to believe that people, your generation, and the generation of Gladys Bocholei can change this country?
Change is organic. Change requires processes. Change needs well-organized systems. I strongly believe the next president should be the opposite of William Ruto, in the sense that it should be somebody who will promise less but do more. I believe it should be somebody who is seasoned, somebody who believes in systems. Because today, if I was told, what can you do different from William Ruto? I will say I will allow systems to work.
Just that.
Allow systems to work. And don't interfere with the processes. If somebody is on the wrong side of the law, let the law deal with him. If somebody is doing well, let him get praises from whichever quarter. But William has not allowed systems to work.
That is our next conversation, the need for the president to allow his cabinet and state officers to have a free hand to apply themselves. But how about we now cross over to Heroes Corner with Waziri Kipruto Arab Kirwa. It is the first edition for the year of our Lord 2025, and we want to understand who is opening up this segment for us this year as our hero or heroine for the day.
Yes, I'll go back to the country of my formative years.
Hey, you love this country. Must be Tanzania, right?
Yes, it is Tanzania, originally Tanganyika. Because when we went there in 1962, it was called Tanganyika.
I actually fear you might be deported sometime soon and sent back to Tanganyika if you continue going bare knuckles on the regime of today.
If they take me back to Msoma or Butiama or Mukambero, Mukambero is the actual village where I left in 1972, and they give me like 100 livestock, I'll be happy. Because after 5 years, I'll be having 1,000 of them, because land there is slightly more free than is in Kenya.
On the condition that ya Karen uniwachie mimi.
Ya Karen nitajia watoto wangu. Ama nitajia Glenn.
Back to our hero.
My hero is Rashid Mfaume Kawawa. He is the first vice president of Tanganyika.
Rashid Mfaume
Kawawa, born 1924.
Good.
In Tanganyika Republic.
Moi's age mate?
Yes, age mate with Mzee Moi, and also with the late Jimmy Carter.
Ah, good.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter was also born 1924.
Ah, nice.
And he passed on, of course, the other day, when he was 100 years and 89 days. You can see how that was a blessed year.
Sure.
So Rashid Kawawa, when Tanganyika got independence, and Mwalimu Nyerere won as a prime minister, and he was told to form the government. He formed the government in 1961. And 6 weeks later, he relinquished the position of prime minister and allowed Rashid Kawawa to take over for the next 1 year as a prime minister, as he toured the country to build the machinery of Chama cha Tano, which was Tanganyika African National Union, TANU. Upon achieving what he believed was proper national integration, because he traveled all over the country using a grey Land Rover vehicle throughout the country, all parts of Tanganyika. I think there are about 17 regions, and there could easily be more than 50 districts at that time. He traveled the whole time, mobilized the people, and now came back to take over as the president of the Republic of Tanganyika. Then, of course, in 1964, they formed a coalition between Afro-Shirashi Party and Chama cha Tano to form what they are calling CCM, Chama cha Mapinduzi.
Ah, good.
Which was basically bringing Zanzibar and Tanganyika together to form Tanzania. And of course they formed Tanzania because they said there was the kingdom of Azania in the old days, and said this is something that is reminiscent of us having an organic entity called Tanzania. Rashid Kawawa, because when they formed, Nyerere retained the president, the position of the president. Sheikh Abed Karume became the first vice president. Rashid Kawawa became the second vice president, coming from the mainland, and the other one came from the island. So they transited in 1974. We lost Karume through assassination.
Unfortunate.
Yes, unfortunately we lost him. Then Kawawa continued as vice president, and later on he became prime minister again. Remember, he was second vice prime minister when Nyerere relinquished the position. And the old man survived. When Nyerere was retiring in 1985, he was among the 3 candidates poised to take over the nation of Tanzania. The other one was Ahmed Salim, who was the Secretary General of AU. At that time, he was 42 years. Then the other one was Mzee Ali Hassan Mwinyi, who at that time was over 60. And the third one was Rashid Mfaume Kawawa. But as it were, Nyerere had now to listen to the elders. And some got knocked out, like Ahmed Salim. He was knocked out on the basis that, yes, he's a good person, he's brilliant, he's gone to school, but they say the country still needs an old hand so that the transition is seamless and is smooth for purposes of attaining a country that can live beyond even Nyerere. So eventually Nyerere settled, and the CCM party settled for Mzee Ali Hassan Mwinyi. And one interesting issue, when the delegates came to Morogoro, is it Dodoma? Because that is where the whole thing was done. Ali Hassan Mwinyi found the room that he had been reserved to as minister had been taken away by another minister. So he went and he joined in the dormitory the normal delegates.
Humility, that one.
Yes, and that is how he was able to interact with them. And eventually when they said, this is one of the guys who wants to be president, they said, why not him? He's been with us.
Opulence was never his cup of tea?
It was not his cup of tea. So
at least not state-sponsored opulence.
No. It is he, the person, Ali Hassan Mwinyi.
Ah, good.
So unfortunately, Mzee Kawawa passed on in 2009.
Oh, sad.
Yes, and we are happy. We are reminiscent of that, and possibly having lived in Tanzania under his leadership, I feel nostalgic. Very short guy, almost my height. And he was able to be in government for more than 20 years, either as minister, prime minister, vice president, second vice president. He's a great man.
Must have been such a trusted fellow.
By Nyerere. Because, in fact, you are very right, because there was debate whether it was Kawawa or Oscar Kambona. But Nyerere preferred Kawawa to Oscar Kambona.
Nyerere preferred Kawawa to Oscar Kambona.
Hey, a story for another day. Yeah.
I tell you, my oh my, this man, Kipruto Arap Kirwa, such a walking repository of history. His sharp memory, I believe, is something that must be studied in schools, especially at his age.
I'm an ordinary fellow.
Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, it's my pleasure. Asante.
Wasalimu mababe wa Karen na wale wengine wa Cherangani.
Hata nitapiga simu wengine huko Tanzania. Ni watu wetu.
At least so that you prepare for your deportation this early.
If they deport me to Tanzania, I'll be happy.
All right.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen whether he'll be deported or not. Until then, do enjoy the rest of your viewing.